Well, we're going to talk about what happened next, and joining us now is Jim Baker. He is an expert on Marilyn Monroe.
He is the author of a new book entitled The Empty Glass, a fact-based thriller about the death of screen icon Marilyn Monroe. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
It's been 50 years, and we are still talking about the rumors surrounding her death.
Right.
Was it a murder? Did she commit suicide? Which one is it? What do we know here? What have you been able to find?
Well, we've been able to find a lot of contradictory information, and the fact of the matter is that we can't say absolutely for sure what has happened here, but there are an enormous number of mysteries that persist. Conflicting testimonies, missing evidence, it just goes on and on and on. So all of that stuff sort of leads to the fact that this remains, one of the biggest mysteries of the 20th century.
So what specifically happened the night she died? What do we know?
Well, there's a lot of, again, you can't quite get to the bottom of any of it, but the baseline is she was living in a house that she had probably bought about 6 months before in Brentwood, California. She was living with a live-in housekeeper named Eunice Murray. Eunice said that around midnight of that night, 50 years ago tonight, she went into the hall and she saw a light under Marilyn's door, got concerned about that, knocked on the door, got no answer, called her psychotherapist. The psychotherapist came over, broke the window to her bedroom, got into the bedroom, found her dead on the floor, on the bed, with the phone in her hand. And this was at 12:30 at night, but they did not call the cops until 4 hours later.
So all of those events don't quite line up. What's the storyline here? What's the issue with that? Is there an issue in that storyline?
Well, the issue with that storyline is, first of all, the next day they changed the time frame. So it went from 12:30 to 3 a.m., right? And there's also an enormous number of other testimony from people like Peter Lawford, an actor, Joe DiMaggio Jr.'s son, that contradicts that central thesis. I'm just telling you what Eunice Murray said happened.
Sure.
That was the first version.
Your thesis is that she was murdered.
No, not necessarily. My thesis is she could have been murdered.
And who would have done it under that thesis?
I hate to be really speculative here, but you can't get too far in the landscape of this case without running into the name Kennedy. And I think there's absolutely no doubt at all that the Kennedy brothers were having sexual relations with Marilyn Monroe.
Multiple brothers.
Yes. Bobby, the Attorney General, JFK, the President of the United States, they sort of handed her off to each other. I don't see how anyone can say that did not happen.
Could it have just been really shady, not completely thorough police work? That, you know what, maybe Marilyn Monroe, she really did just commit suicide, and the right investigation didn't take place afterwards.
She could have committed suicide, sure. However, the big thing that argues against that was the amount of drugs that were found in her bloodstream. In order to have the level of drugs that she had in her bloodstream, she would have had to have taken at least 50 sleeping pills in an incredibly short period of time in order to get to that, right? And in addition to that, there was no water glass found in her locked bedroom, and there was no water in her locked bedroom. How does that happen?
Yeah, so the mystery continues.
Jim Baker, thank you.
Thanks so much.